Hello everyone, this is Robert from Book of Mormon Editions, where we discuss printings, publications, and various editions of the Book of Mormon. So I've often stated that we review specific editions, and I found this gem of a printing and wanted to highlight this specific book. This is a 1920 copyright printing of the Book of Mormon, a common edition of the time, and I've made several videos previously about this style of edition. A reminder to this edition was that it was a newly formatted for the time, most notably with a double column and new cross-referencing. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was very proud of this edition, as it was the first uniform edition for both missionary and church membership use. The cover has a decorative title on the front cover, and the title page does not have a printing date, but does have the 1920 copyright. The very last page concludes the index, but on the very bottom, the printer is listed as Press of Zion Printing and Publishing of Independence, Missouri, which was the church-owned printer at the time. What's interesting about this edition is that there's an ownership signature in the inside front cover. If you can read cursive, you can see the words Galen S. Young, grandson of Brigham Young, August 49. I would expect that this would be 1949, as this is after the 1920 format. So this edition was owned by Brigham Young's grandson. Here's a little background on it. Galen Snow Young Sr. was born in 1892 in Logan, Utah, and died in 1981 in Salt Lake City. He was the son of Brigham Morris Young and Celestia Snow. Brigham Morris Young was the son of Brigham Young. And yes, while talking about Brigham Young in early Utah territory, it's necessary to recognize the practice of plural marriage of those times and all the wives and children Brigham Young had to support in the Wild West. Brigham Young had 204 grandchildren, which begat 745 great-grandchildren. His descendants in nowadays terms reaches into the tens of thousands. That's a lot of birthday cards, or maybe this was given as a birthday present to Mr. Galen Young. So, even though there's a lot of posterity of Brigham Young, it's still neat to find an edition of the Book of Mormon from that legacy. What's also interesting is that this edition has a few printing blemishes that's worthy to note. I mentioned in other videos that the printing was done by printing a number of pages on a larger sheet and then folding them down to pamphlets. These printers would then stitch and bind the pamphlets together, and the edges would be trimmed down to form straight edges of the book. However, in this situation, for this specific printing, sometimes the folds would be a little off, but still bound in the book. The trim would cut the edges so that the printed text would be skewed compared to the margins. Several occurrences of this printing is misaligned, has misaligned pages to the text, and it becomes kind of a collector's item to see this. I can hear critics now ask, how is this possible to have the Book of Mormon as the most correct book when they couldn't even get the printing alignment right? To me, it just makes this a specific volume just a little cooler, and that printers are just as human as the rest of us. Either way, it's nice to review a Book of Mormon owned by the grandson of Brigham Young. Thanks everyone for your support. I'm reminded that I'm constantly juggling between being a family man, helping with homework, scheduling spring breaks, and everything in between, including creating content for this Book of Mormon Editions channel. So a heartfelt thank you to everyone. If you have a specific or unique edition of the Book of Mormon that you'd like reviewed here, please contact me at bomeditions@gmail.com. Thanks, everyone.